Hello and welcome to ManageEngine Endpoint Management and Security Solutions webinar on Windows 7 to Windows 10. Migration made easy. So are you all ready for the end or the beginning? And this isn't just about this webinar or even the fact that we are nearing the end of 2019. Are you all really prepared to face the end of Windows 7 support, or are you ready to begin cyber wars against threats and vulnerabilities that will target your IT network? During the course of the webinar, you will come to realize why I have raised such a strong question about the possibility of offering your enterprise security to cyber attacks. This is the agenda that has been planned for today. So before we begin, let me ask you guys a quick question. Do you still have computers in your network running on Windows 7 platform? Please answer the poll displayed on your screen. So we're getting some responses. According to this poll, most of you say that you still have Windows 7 machines in your network. Some of you do say that you do not have even a single machine running on Windows 7 platform. So let me end this poll with 88% of you saying you still have Windows 7 computers in your network. Do you know that even a single computer can act as a gateway to accessing your enterprise network, and by doing so, making it prone to every major cyber attack? Now, this is the data according to net market share. This is the total number of Windows operating system users till the end of November 2019. As you can see, 32.5% of the devices across the globe are still running on Windows 7 and other legacy operating systems. After 14 January 2020, all these devices will be prone to every major ransomware, spyware, third-party risk, which are present till date, and even those that will evolve in the future. You may ask, why is that so? Because on our cases, malware target easy entry point, which is outdated, unprotected operating systems. And Windows 7 is outdated. Most of us are aware that Microsoft is pulling the plug on Windows 7 support on 14 January 2020. After this date, Microsoft will no longer provide any security updates or patches, feature updates or enhancements, or even technical support to fix any of these issues. Now, since according to the poll, 88% of you say you still maintain Windows 7 computers in your network, how are you going to proceed after the end of life period? So here are some possible options for you to take up. The first option would be to choose security updates for your existing Windows 7 computers by opting for the Microsoft's Extended Security Update. Or perhaps you can choose to upgrade your operating system to Windows 8.1. Or even better, you can upgrade it to Windows 10 platform. We also have another option, and this last option would be chosen by default if you do not choose any of these three options. I'm sure you would have guessed what it is. This option is offering your entire network data and security on a silver platter to the cybercrime world. So what do you choose? With Windows 7 ruling the Microsoft OS world for 10 years, it would be difficult for some users to adapt to Windows 10. Also, with applications like Windows Media Center and Internet Explorer being unsupported in Windows 10, some enterprise users might prefer native applications. So to retain Windows 7 along with the security patches, it is necessary to opt for the extended security updates. Now these security updates will be provided by Microsoft for 3 years up to 2023. As you can see, these updates are available for both Enterprise and Professional Edition, not for Home Editions. The cost per computer to retain the security updates doubles annually. If in case you choose to opt for these updates only in the second or perhaps the third year, you will still have to pay for the previous years. As Microsoft says, these updates are cumulative. In addition to these, Office 365 will be supported on those devices which opt for these security updates. So is it just necessary to completely safeguard your network if you simply opt for the updates? Are you aware that Microsoft is also ending its support of certain applications in 2020? Do you recognize these applications? I'm sure most of you would be having more than one of the software in your network. But how many of you know that Microsoft is ending support for these applications too in the very near future? Now this is the end of life date given to these applications. So now let us observe the broader picture of Microsoft. Microsoft constantly keeps you updating not just your operating system, but also all your major business applications. The latest application versions of Microsoft are designed to support only Windows 10 and above OS. In case you still want to retain your network computers in Windows 7, then be prepared to face these consequences. If there is one thing that everyone dreads, it's the machine boot time. It's important that the computer's boot time must be very less in a business critical environment. Using applications like Boot Racer, computers with similar specifications were compared, and here are the results. As you can see, before installing 15 major applications on both Windows 7 and Windows 10 platform, it is found that the boot time is almost similar. But after the installation of these 15 applications, there is a visible difference in the boot time. Windows 10 is obviously faster. Comparing the wake from hibernate and wake from hybrid sleep time, it is found that Windows 10 operating system is faster by at least 6 seconds. So here, the first step, you're going to compromise on the boot time. You also have certain hardware and software compatibility issues. Let us look into them in detail. Microsoft's major business application, Office 2019, will run only on Windows 10 and future updates. It will not support Windows 7. Also, Office 2013 and Office 2016 will stop their support of Windows 7 after its end of life. which is on 14 January 2020. As I said earlier, Office 365 will continue to receive support along with the security updates. However, this support will be only security patches. It will not have any new features or functionality of the application. We also have the case of Adobe Flash. Adobe Flash support will end on 31st December 2020. Hence, this will be disabled by default in Microsoft Edge in Windows 10. Other applications too are reaching the end of life. Now these applications are completely replaced by a new software. Some of them are Microsoft Security Essentials, which will reach its end of life on 14 January 2020. Now this is replaced by Windows Defender. We also have Windows Analytics, which is being replaced by Desktop Analytics. Most of us know that Internet Explorer 2 is being replaced by Microsoft Edge as the default web browser in Windows 10. So not just software, even hardware companies too have begun to remove the support of Windows 7 platform. Both Intel and AMD 7th Gen processors do not support any old version of Windows. They only support Windows 10 and future updates. This is because both the processors do not support the drivers of Windows 7, 8 or 8.1. Now before we continue, here's another quick question. Are you all aware of the end of life date given to Windows 8.1? According to this poll, about 32% of you are still unaware of the end of life date. Let me close this poll with these results. The end of life date of Windows 8.1 is 10 January 2023. Now this might give you an understanding of why it is preferred to migrate your devices to Windows 10 and not Windows 8.1. So what do you guys prefer? A hole in your boat which can be patched temporarily? This is Windows 7 platform. Or perhaps the boat approaching the iceberg which can cause damage in the very near future. This is Windows 8.1. The mainstream support for Windows 8.1 ended on 9 January 2018. I'm sure most of you would opt for this safe ship which can sail perfectly for the upcoming years. And this, of course, is Windows 10. Now, with all of us agreeing that Windows 10 is the preferred option, let us take a look at the new updates and features available on Windows 10 and what makes it the safest ship yet. First in this list is the Windows Defender antivirus, which provides real-time protection against software threats across email, app, the cloud, and the web. It is also integrated with Windows Defender Offline, a bootable standalone anti-malware program. Then comes the Trusted Boot. When you run your Windows 10 on any computer that supports Unified Extensible Firmware Interface, Trusted Boot protects your PC from malware from the moment you power on your computer until your anti-malware starts. Trusted Boot can prove your system's integrity in such a way that the malware can't disguise. Even on computers without UEFI, Windows 10 provides an even better startup security than the previous versions of Windows. In addition to these, we have Device Guard and Credential Guard, which are designed to harden your computers against malware. Windows consistently improves its data protection more profoundly in the BitLocker encryption. We also have Windows Hello, which helps you log on to your devices with sign-in by face or fingerprint recognition. It also lets you use your digital wristband, smartwatch, phone, and other companion devices to unlock your Windows PC quickly. Now, before we move on, let me ask you guys another quick question. Did you upgrade your computer's OS in the past 1 year? Please answer the poll displayed on the screen. So we're getting some responses. Some of you say that you do have performed an OS migration. And the numbers keep changing. I'll give it a few seconds. I'll end this poll with these results. About 60% of you say that you haven't performed an OS migration. And I'm sure even the others would have performed a migration only in your test environment. Then are you aware of the hardships to deploy an OS like Windows 10? Deploying or upgrading to a new OS version like Windows 10 may not be as simple as you think. Here are some major pain points, common pain points which are found by an IT administrator during an OS upgrade. The first step, of course, is finding the number of Windows 7 machines which are there in your enterprise network. Say you have 10 computers. Getting the total number of devices which still run on Windows 7 platform should be quite easy. But say you have 100 endpoints, perhaps 1,000 or even 10,000 endpoints. Getting the accurate number of Windows 7 machines is a headache. Not just the number of computers, you should also get the complete hardware and software details to check for the compatibility. What happens if your machine does not have the required free disk space to adapt to a migration? Or perhaps say you still have computers which have these legacy applications which are going to reach its end of life. Should you upgrade it? Should this be done before or after deploying your OS? All these questions will be answered only if you get the accurate details of Windows 7 machines. Then, there's also a critical pain point that every IT administrator will agree with me, which is securing your user data. During an OS migration, you should make sure that the user data in your end user machine should completely be secured before and after the migration. Also, you should ensure that this data is not leaked out of your enterprise. And if it does, you will be sure to have a cyber attack perhaps on the very next day. Then we also have another major point. This may seem like a very common point, but can cause major impact on your enterprise productivity. An OS migration may take more than 2 hours. So imagine if you're going to upgrade your computers, say there are 100 to 1000 endpoints, estimate the time required for deployment of Windows 10. If you do this during your productive hours, this will drastically affect your company's productivity. All these pain points should be addressed before performing an OS migration like Windows 10. Now these are the basic hardware requirements given by Microsoft. Ensure that your devices which are still running on Windows 7 should be compatible or should be equal to all the data that is given according to Microsoft. Now let us see the best practices advised for Windows 10 migration. So as I've said earlier, the first step would be to get the complete asset details of all the endpoints available in your network. This will not only give you the count of Windows 7 machines, it will also address the complete software and hardware details of your machines. Getting this data, you can have the exact number of successful Windows 10 installations. The next step is securing your user data. Take a complete backup of your user data before you upgrade it to Windows 10. This will ensure that your user data is not lost. And then there's the case of applications which might not be compatible with Windows 10, or perhaps it's reaching its end of life. Have a test environment to check whether your existing business critical applications are compatible with Windows 10. If not, upgrade it to the latest version. Plan a proper packaging strategy to deploy all your applications after the OS is upgraded. And then comes the computer downtime. Estimate the approximate downtime which your enterprise endpoints will require for an OS migration. Perform the complete deployment process during your non-productive hours to neglect any kind of productivity. Your best practices doesn't just end with Windows 10 migration. You also have to make sure that you constantly look out for the security updates and deploy them frequently to ensure that your network is always secure. Now, here are some deployment methods which Microsoft has provided. Let us take a look into them in detail. The first is traditional deployment method. This method is used in case of new or bare metal deployment, computer refresh, or computer replacement. This process starts up a bootable media and deploys an OS image into the machine. The next method specified is dynamic provisioning. The goal of dynamic provisioning is simple. Take out a new PC, turn it on into a productive organization device. That too with minimal time and effort. This can be done either through Windows 10 subscription activation or by packaging the OS as an application. Now the last method given by Microsoft is modern deployment method. For existing computers running on Windows 7, 8 or 8.1, you can perform an in-place upgrade which automatically preserves all data, settings, applications and drivers from existing operating system version. So these are the basic deployment methods given by Microsoft. Before we proceed, let me ask you all another quick question. So what is the average time taken by your IT administrator to deploy a commercial application like Office 365? That too for one particular computer. We have the answers ranging here. I see that some of you say it takes less than 30 minutes. Now let me end this poll with about 54% of you saying it takes more than 30 minutes to deploy a commercial application. Now imagine the time taken to deploy an OS like Windows 10 to all your endpoints in the network. Is this really the amount of time that you're willing to waste just for an installation of an OS? Let us also take the case of manual deployment of Windows 10. For example, the average salary of an IT technician per hour will be $16. The time taken to manually download and deploy Windows 10 for one computer, it says an approximate of 3 hours. Then imagine the time taken to deploy Windows 10 for 100 computers. It's going to be 300 hours, an approximate of 12.5 days. The salary given to your IT administrator just for an OS migration, that too for 100 endpoints, it's going to be about $4,800. Now, is this really the amount of time and money that you're willing to spend just for OS deployment? Wouldn't this be affecting your productivity? Surely, many of you would be aware of how to make this entire deployment process simple and easy in just a few clicks. And for those who are unaware of it, welcome to the new beginning with the end of Windows 7. The products to simplify this entire migration process is ManageEngine's Desktop Central, a unified endpoint management and security solution, and OS Deployer, a standalone OS deployment tool. ManageEngine's Desktop Central is a complete unified endpoint management and security solution, which enables you to perform all your endpoint management activities, right from deploying your OS to performing activities like patch or software deployment, completely getting the asset details in your network, or even taking remote control of machines for troubleshooting. Also, you can perform mobile device management activities like device management, app management, and even modern management activities like geo-tracking and putting the device in kiosk mode. All of this from a single console. The feature of deploying OS is provided as a standalone product, which is ManageEngine's OS Deployer. This provides various features like flexible boot options, hardware-independent deployment, and customizing deployment to different departments in an organization. It also offers automated deployment methods with modern imaging techniques. Now, this data will give you a fair idea of the trust and credibility of ManageEngine in the UEM ladder. We are recognized in Gartner Magic Quadrant for unified endpoint management tools for 2 consecutive years. Also, we are recognized in the 2019 Forrester Wave for unified endpoint management and in IDC MarketScape Worldwide Unified Endpoint Management Software. Along with that, We are recognized in G2 Crowd and Cyber Defense Magazine as a leader in unified endpoint management. Now with these details, let us see how to deploy Windows 10 easily using our product. As we've seen in the best practice, the first step would be getting the complete asset details of all the Windows 7 devices which are present in the network. Then, to deploy the OS, you can make use of either of the two methods that are available. One can choose to deploy the image of Windows 10 along with the disk partition details and bootable media. Now this method includes both the traditional and modern deployment method specified by Microsoft. We also have the dynamic provisioning method, using which you can simply package the OS as an application and deploy it to machines retaining the user data. In short, ManageEngine comprises all the possible deployment methods given by Microsoft. So now let us see how to obtain the details of Windows 7 devices which are present in the network. Let me quickly take you to the product console. So this is our product. Under the Inventory tab, we have a dashboard view. Now this simple dashboard view is giving you the complete details of computers categorized by their operating systems. So here it says I have 3 computers still running on Windows 7 platform. When I click on this, I am taken to a reports view wherein I'll have the list of computers which are running on Windows 7 platform. By clicking on the computer name, I can get the complete details, be it the disk usage or the number of software, commercial or non-commercial applications, the OS summary and the hardware summary. When you want to go further, you can check the complete hardware details and the application details. Checking the application version, you can ensure that it is whether compatible with Windows 10 or not. Export this complete details into a PDF. This report from our inventory will give you a clear view of all the machines that will have successful Windows 10 installations. In those machines in which you need to upgrade the application, you can group them and deploy the applications after the OS upgrade. So with these simple steps, you can get the complete asset details of your network. Before we proceed further, there are some critical questions that an IT administrator will have before initiating an OS migration. These are some frequently asked questions that I came across during my interactions with our customers. I'll be providing answers on how simple Desktop Central and OS Deployer offers solutions to these queries. So let us take a look into the first question. How to deploy Windows 10 to all the computers simultaneously, that too under bandwidth restriction. Using ManageEngine's deployment tool, you can enable the server to send the OS image copy to multiple computers at the same time, and this prevents excess bandwidth consumption. This is what we call multicast mode. For example, say you have purchased 100 bare metal machines and you want to deploy the OS to all of them at the same time. In this case, you can choose this method. You can also configure the bandwidth consumption limit. We also have another option which is called the unicast mode. When you have a new joinee in your organization and you want to give a new system to him with specific OS configuration, you can enable the server to send the OS image copy to each computer one by one using this method. You can schedule the time interval for deployment based on the feasible time of your organization, more preferably during your non-productive hours. You can set the image compression level, which will minimize the size of the image and hence reduce the image storage space. So let us take a look at the next question. How to deploy Windows 10 to computers having different hardware specifications, be it Dell, HP or Lenovo. It is not necessary that the computers needs to be imaged specific to the hardware requirement. We have features available in both Desktop Central and OS Deployer, where one can deploy the same image to all the computers in the network. For a system to function, it requires a unique set of device drivers. If you are manually deploying an image with these set of drivers, there is a possibility that the drivers might not match with the machine's hardware configuration, leading to system errors. But using our product, you will have to follow one simple step. Perform an image in any one of your machine, irrespective of its hardware. So say be it a Dell machine. Now the OS image of this computer will be stored in the image repository. The driver details will automatically be collected and stored in the driver repository. You can also manually add some driver details in this repository. Now when you want to deploy this image to all the other computers in your network, the image will automatically be obtained from the image repository and be deployed, be it a HP or a Lenovo model. The missing drivers will be obtained from this driver repository and automatically be installed after the OS reboot. So with this simple way, the image of one computer, irrespective of its hardware, can be deployed to any type of machines in your network. Here's another important question that an IT administrator will have. Can Windows 10 be imaged from business critical machines which cannot afford downtime? ManageEngine offers a method where the administrators can capture the disk image of a system when it's live and functioning. This is what we call online image creation. This method does not require a system reboot to perform imaging. It finishes the work without interrupting the user and their ongoing work. Another method is available to acquire the disk image of the system. That is, when the system is shut down. This is what we call offline imaging. Using this method, the details will be stored in a bootable media. So using one of these two methods, you simply initiate the image creation. The image once created will automatically be stored in the image repository. Now, here comes a major important question that everyone will have. Windows 10 upgrade needs to be customized for multiple user requirements. Can this be done? Most organizations have different departments with various user requirements. Each department and user role often requires a unique combination of OS and different applications based on their business needs. As we have seen, using ManageEngine's deployment feature, one can capture the disk partition imaging, you can categorize and decide the partitions needed for each employee role. You can choose to extend the data partitions by utilizing the unallocated spaces. Not just customizing partition details, you can also perform tasks like naming the target computer, adding it to the domain, and adding the user accounts. Also, you can install the required applications, and this process can be automated by choosing the post-deployment configurations available. So here's one critical question that every IT administrator will have. How to secure your user data in individual computers before upgrading to Windows 10? When you want to simply upgrade the Windows without any change in your user data, using our product, you can choose to package your OS and deploy it to multiple computers simultaneously. Or we have another option as well. Our OS deployment tool takes complete backup of the user data in the computer and associates it with unique MAC address. Once the image is deployed, the OS deployer will restore the obtained user data to the computers, completely eliminating individual data loss. In this example, for this particular computer name, there's a profile backup creation initiated. As you can see, there is very less time elapsed. So once the OS is migrated for this machine, this user profile will automatically be restored in that particular machine. We have one last question. How to deploy Windows with license key? You can use volume licenses or option to deploy the image without license. Now this option allows the computer to fetch the licenses from the licensing server. Using the Volume Licensing Service Center, you can also distribute licenses and deploy other Microsoft Office applications. Now that we have seen the questions that might arise during the deployment process, let me give you a brief on the workflow of OS deployment using ManageEngine products. There are 3 simple steps to deploy Windows 10 to all your network computers. The first step would be creating an OS image. You can create your image by choosing either one of the 2 options available. You can perform your image on a business critical machine without having the machine shut down when it's live and functioning. Or you can create an image during the non-productive hours when the machine is shut down. Once the image is created, this image will be stored in the image repository. Now your next step is customizing the image. You can choose to provide the disk partition details, computer name, image compression rate, and memory usage. You can also create the bootable media for the image deployment. Along with this, you can provide or associate applications that are to be deployed post the deployment of Windows 10. So we have completed 2 steps, image creation and image customization. The only remaining step is image deployment. To deploy an image, you can choose one of the 2 methods available. When you want to deploy the image to multiple computers, that too under bandwidth restriction, you can choose this multicast mode. When you want to deploy OS to specific computers one by one, you can choose the unicast method of deployment. Schedule the deployment, particularly during your non-productive hours. This complete OS image creation and deployment can take place in any machines in your enterprise across the globe. Say you have an image in your local office. You can deploy it to any endpoint in any of the remote offices of your enterprise. Now, with this workflow being clear, let me navigate through the product to give an overview of how to deploy Windows 10 to all the network computers using ManageEngine products. Let me navigate to the product console. So here it is. Let me go to the OS deployment tab. Now, as we've seen, the first step will be creating an image. Click on Create Image. Choose one of the computers that you have, or you can image it from a new computer. Provide the computer details, the imaging details, and the partition details. I already have an image. Let me show you. So this is the image that you would have created. You will get the image status, compression level, and the memory usage, the total duration for your image creation, the complete details, and it is stored in the image repository. You also have driver repository, which will contain the complete driver details. Now the first step is completed. Your next step now is image creation, customization. To customize it, click on Create Deployment Template. So when you give an appropriate name for your template, associate it with an image that you have created. Provide the necessary details, be it the post-deployment details. You can choose to provide the computer name, domain details, and also add user accounts to the target computer. You can also choose to select the applications to install in the target computer after the OS migration. Here I will show you. You can create a bootable media that is required for OS deployment. The bootable media can be either PXE, USB, or ISO file. So once your bootable media 2 has been created, the final step remains is deployment. To deploy an image, you need to create a task. Now associate the template that you've created. So it is in this template that you have customized a created image. So with these details, select your target computers, be it your local office or your remote offices. Then choose your deployment authentication. You can choose to authenticate either using the passcode that is generated or by using the target computer's MAC address. The final step is scheduling the deployment. Choose your deployment method, be it multicast, which is deploying the OS to multiple computers simultaneously, or you can opt for unicast. When you choose multicast, like I've said earlier, you can provide your bandwidth constraints. After this, provide the schedule for your deployment and click on Save. So with this, you've completely automated the process of image deployment. Now, in case you want to deploy the OS by packaging it as an application, you can also do so using our product. For that, go to the Software Deployment tab, and since I've already created a package, Let me quickly show you. My OS has been created. Select the package. Click on Install the software as a computer configuration. Now the only step remains is choosing your deployment policy, which is your schedule, and choosing your target computers. With this simple step, you can initiate the OS deployment process. Now this is just a small glimpse of all the capabilities that are available in Desktop Central and OS Deployer. To know in detail about our products, you can download our product free trial version for 30 days to get a complete hands-on experience. You can also sign up for our personalized demo session where our support technician will walk through the entire product and answer all your questions and queries. If you'd like to schedule a personalized demo session, do post yes on chat. Our technicians will contact you soon on your preferred date and time. There's another quick question before we end the session. Did you like this webinar? Instead of a poll, you'll receive a feedback form at the end of the session. Do rate us on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the best. And don't forget, you will be receiving a migration guide, which will contain the complete details of Windows 7 to Windows 10 migration process. Thank you all for joining us in this session today. Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year. Hope you completely update and secure your enterprise network before welcoming 2020. Once again, thank you.